monthly gain in more than a year. Investors have been optimistic about the possibility of federal cannabis legalization, and that process taking a big step forward today. The House Rules Committee holding a hearing on a bill that would decriminalize cannabis at the federal level. Frank Holland joining us with more. Frank, is it really going to happen this time? And even if it does pass the House, what happens in the Senate?
Well, you know what? The debate today at the House Rules Committee and the eventual vote that's expected to happen on Friday is both a combination of expected to be symbolic and insightful, believe it or not. Of course, in D.C., you know, politics makes strange bedfellows. You're going to have to follow me on this one. There's a lot of thought that, of course, the MORE Act, which would decriminalize cannabis and also open up some banking and consumer packaged good options, is going to pass from the Rules Committee to the full House for a vote and then get stalled in the Senate, as you just mentioned. But Cowen analyst Jared Seiberg and a lot of other industry experts, they're really watching closely at the debate and the eventual vote to see how many GOP congresspeople actually vote yes or speak in favor of cannabis legalization. There's a general thought that the House could flip from Democrat to Republican control next year, but the Senate would stay under Democrat control. Under that scenario, there's a thought that the Republican-controlled House could come up with a cannabis legalization bill that would be palatable to the Senate, and it could actually pass in the next session. But this year, generally considered dead on arrival when it comes to cannabis reform, just because, according to most calculations, you would need 10 GOP senators to vote in favor of this bill to avoid a filibuster.
So talk to me, Frank, about the stocks. Has it just been on hopes of movement in Congress for the U.S.? Is it deal consolidation, Canadian fundamental? What's moving these stocks? Because they've been so wild, especially for retail investors.
Or excuse the pun, definitely high hopes. It's a lot of hope, but there hasn't really been a meaningful path forward so far. But you have to remember, these are giant industries. Here in the U.S., cannabis sales are expected to be at $30 billion this year. Up in Canada, there's different projections, but somewhere between $4 and $5 billion. These are very big industries with the potential to be even bigger with legalization. Now, the stocks that have the biggest upside here are the U.S. stocks. They're called multi-state operators, or MSOs. They have their own ETF, the MSOS, while mostly Canadian operators in the MJ ETF that's seen the biggest gain. So in a lot of cases, people are getting very excited about the Canadian operators because they're on major exchanges, they're better capitalized. But in general, the U.S. operators, they have a bigger moat. They already have state licenses. When there's meaningful reform, they will have a leg up to be able to bank, borrow money at much better rates than they have in the past, and scale up their businesses much faster. Generally, it's considered that Canadian operators would have to go through some type of regulatory process to enter the U.S. market.
Got it. Frank Holland, thank you very much. Learned a